Welcome back to the Insane Asylum. This is your host, Commander Asylum. This is an extension of 102, and in this, I want to elaborate on two other topics and go into a bit more detail on those. This is going to be a little bit more advanced, but this is still something I think that is not obvious to new bros, but it can be important, especially if you're going to go into low sec or null sec space and either kill NPC pirates or maybe do some exploration. And also, if you want to do some hauling, you want to take some contracts and haul some people's stuff for them, this can also be important. And the first is going to be traveling our route. So route traveling, going from point A to point B. The first thing I want to talk about is the difference between warp to versus jump to. So when I click on a Stargate, so it's important to note that in my 102 video I plotted a course and I followed that course, but you don't have to plot a course to follow. You can just follow a route. So I can just jump through a Stargate if I want to. If I know the route by heart, I can just do that as well. There's no need to actually plot a route if you don't need the EVE Online to plot that route for you. But so I'm going to select this Stargate here, and I got several options, and all these are actually really important, especially if you're going to be hauling valuable cargo for other people. So the first option I have is align to. So when I decide I want to warp somewhere, it's going to take me some amount of time to reorient my ship to go and warp in that direction. It's because my ship needs to be moving within 15 degrees of the thing I want to warp to, and my ship's speed has to be 75% of my max speed. When both of those conditions are met, I will then enter warp. And until then, I am exposed. If somebody wants to kill me, they can target me, tackle me, and kill me. Or sometimes they can just delete you with so much overwhelming force, they can just delete you before you can even get aligned out. Being aligned allows you to escape. So if I'm aligned to this, so let's go and align to this Stargate. If I'm aligned to, there we go, see, and this is like 90 degrees out. So I'm glad I'm doing this. It's going to take me probably 5 or 6 seconds to do this. Now, if I'm not sure I want to warp here yet, let's say, hey, there's people hunting me right now, and I want to know if that gate is going to be safe to go to. So we talked about this, actually no, I'm going to talk about this in my 103 video on staying safe. But I can use my D scanner here to scan down this gate to see what's there and make sure it's safe for me to jump to. But what I want to do is I want to be aligned while I do that. I'm not sure I want to jump to it yet, but I want to be ready to jump to it within a split second notice. If I'm not already aligned to it, it could take me, a number of seconds to actually reorient my ship in that direction before I can enter warp. But now that I'm aligned to it, as soon as I hit either warp 2 or jump, I'm going to instantly enter warp. And anyone who lands here and tries to kill me is not going to be able to do that because I am already aligned. So while I sit here and I'm making my decision, I'm going to stay aligned to it. Now while I'm doing this, I want to talk about the difference between warp 2 and jump. Jump is combining two separate commands into one as far as the client is concerned. It's, for one, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to execute the warp to command. And then once I leave warp, it is going to request to jump the gate. Now this is important because when I exit warp, there is an invisible timer for 10 seconds where I cannot be targeted and I cannot be killed. So if there's somebody there waiting to kill me, if I use warp 2, when I finally come out of warp at the other end, I have 10 seconds of invulnerability to do whatever it is I need to do to think about how I'm going to escape that situation. It might be trying to warp out, it might be trying to jump through the gate, or if I'm at a jump freighter, I could jump out to an emergency silo. Now, I've seen a lot of jump freighters lost because of this. When I click jump, I'm going to land at that Stargate. When I come out of warp, the client is going to make a second command to automatically request to jump through the Stargate. Now, if I am not inside the radius to jump through the Stargate, which is 2,500 meters, I have to be within 2,500 meters of a jump gate to actually jump through it. And sometimes, when you warp straight to a jump gate, you're not going to land within 2,500 meters of it. So you might not always be landing within range to it. So your ship might have to spend 5 or 10 seconds slow boating to the jump gate before you can actually jump through it. But if you jump warp 2 when you land, and you land outside of that radius to jump through it, you still have 10 seconds of vulnerability to figure out what it is you want to do. However, if you hit jump, even though you land outside of the jump range, outside of the 2,500 meters of that jump gate, the client's still going to request a jump through that gate, and that counts as a command that you issue, which breaks your invulnerability timer. So you lose your 10 seconds of invulnerability there. So typically the safest way to go through space is to warp 2, so it's going to do that. I'm going to warp 2, so I was aligned, so you can see I instantly enter warp. So if I saw danger land on grid with me, and I'm already aligned, I can just boom, I'm in warp. There's nothing they can do about it. They can just watch me sail away. So I'm going to land at this gate, but I'm not going to jump through the gate. Now, if I hit jump, it's going to combine those two things. It's going to warp me to the gate, and then it's a request to jump through the gate. But since I selected warp 2, I then have to select a jump on the other side. Also, sometimes, it actually happens more often than you think, the client bugs out, and you'll select jump, and then actually won't jump for you. You'll click jump, and then you'll walk away and go get some coffee, or grab some lunch or a sandwich, and you come back and you're just sitting there on the gate and someone's killing you. So it's important to make sure you actually get through that gate if you click on the jump, because it doesn't always do it successfully. Okay, so we talked about the warp 2 versus jump 2. We talked about landing range to the gate. Now I talked about landing outside of the jump range of the gate, which is 2,500 meters, but stations have the same thing. So if I select warp to this station here, there's a chance I land outside of the docking radius of this space station, and I have to spend 5 or 10 seconds slow boating to that space station. Now this can be dangerous if you're a hauler, especially if someone knows you have a lot of cargo, then they can have a good idea sometimes exactly where you're going, especially if you took the contract from them. Sometimes they'll put big contracts up that are worth a lot of money, and you'll take it, and they know exactly where it's going to, and they know exactly who took it. So, sorry about that, Alexa was talking to me for some reason. So, they could just be waiting here for you, and you land outside the docking range, and during that 5 or 10 seconds it takes you to slow boat to the docking range, you get killed. And you can see that docking range is an orange dotted line around this station. And now I landed within 2,500 meters of the station, so I can instantly dock, but that's not always the case. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is Autopilot.
Docking request accepted.
So Autopilot can calculate your route for you. We talked about that in the 102 video, about how it can calculate a route from star system to star system to get you where you want to go. Now there's an actual autopilot feature where the client will do all the piloting for you until you get to your station. Let's talk about why this can be a bad idea. So when you select, hold on one thing, okay? So when you select autopilot, first let's go ahead and plot a route here. Just do a random route. Let's go to this right here. Okay, select destination. Okay, so now that I have a destination, I can actually tell the client to autopilot for me. It's right here, autopilot active. When I click on this, the client is going to automatically do all the going through the jump gates and jumping and realigning and going through jump gates. And it's going to get me all the way to my destination. If my destination is a space station, it's going to warp me to that space station and dock me. But here's the problem. Watch how far away I land from this Stargate. It's going to land me 10,000 meters or 10K away from the Stargate. Now it's autopilot, so it's going to mosey me nice and slow over to the Stargate until I'm within the 2,500 meter range to actually jump through that Stargate. But that is quite a lot of time where I'm exposed to danger. Now, in the ship I'm in right now, I'm not too worried about it because it's not worth very much, and since I'm in high sec, anyone who kills me is going to lose their ship. So it's typically not worth it for people to blow you up. But if I'm in a paper-thin Tier 1 hauling ship and I have, let's say I got 10 million in cargo with me,
Approaching Stargate.
Right, they can trade a 2 million ISK catalyst and expect that, half of my 10 million in cargo is going to drop for them to loot. So they're going to lose a 2 million catalyst, but they're going to be able to get 5 million in loot off my ship. And if I'm autopiloting, they have this amount of time to target me, and they can ram their ships into me to push me away from the Stargate so that I don't go through it, and then they can kill me and loot my corpse.
Autopilot
And take off my gear. Now, if you're doing a courier contract, it's even worse because you lose your collateral as well. If the collateral is 2 billion ISK, on something and this happens to you, then you're going to lose not only your ship, but you're also going to lose that collateral. Now, if it's your own stuff, you're going to lose your own stuff. So if you have anything valuable, it's not a good idea to use the autopilot. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is escaping death. So we talked about using the warp 2 tab.
Disabled.
Yeah, so we talked about using the warp 2 tab to get out of danger. Here's the problem with that. If it's another pilot, if you're fighting NPCs and you're in danger and you want to warp out, yeah, you can use this as an emergency. Oh my gosh, I got to get out right now. You might be thinking, so if I'm fighting against another player and I'm about to lose, or I just got jumped, or I'm about to get ganked, and I want to get out of here as fast as possible, you might think it might be the most expeditious to go straight to a Stargate and try to go through it. But here's the problem. If they're hunting you, they probably have those Stargates covered already. So trying to escape to a Stargate is usually not the best idea. And that's also obvious. If you look out here in space, if I click on this Stargate, look at this. If I look at this, there's nothing around this right here. So they'll see where you warp off to, and they'll see that you warp off towards this Stargate. And if they're hunting you, they probably have a faster ship than you. And if they have a faster ship than you, they can get there faster than you, and they can kill you either on this side of that gate or on the other side of that gate. So jumping to a Stargate is typically a bad idea. You want to go to a random celestial object. Sometimes they won't have celestials even selected on their overview. So let's take a look here. Let's see where this asteroid. If I go to this asteroid belt, it's against this sun. Let's find something that's easier to see. Asteroid belt right here. This home 7. Now, let's see what we got here. So you can see the things that show up here in my space are different depending on what tab in my overview I have. So if I was to jump, say, to, let's say this planet right here, this home 8. If I was to jump to home 8, but they have this target tab selected, the only thing that's even showing up for them is, well, let's see, nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. So they'll just see me warp off into empty space. That's one of the reasons I want to use this warp 2 tab and go to a random celestial. And another reason is if you look down the overview here, you'll see that some of these celestials are grouped together. Like all these right here are at 10.7. These 3 right here are at 4.3. That means they're probably, just looking at this overview, they're probably really close to each other. And sure enough, I look here, and all 3 of those are right on top of each other. So if I warp off to one of these celestials, anyone who's hunting me is going to see me warp there. And if their overview is set up correctly, which a good hunter is going to have it set up correctly, they're not going to know which of these 3 you warp to. So they're just going to have to guess and warp to it. Now, to make matters even worse, typically they're going to assume that you panicked and you clicked on this and then you hit warp 2. So I click on this asteroid belt, I'm going to hit warp 2. That's going to land me at 0. So what they're going to do typically is they're going to guess at random which one of those 3s you just warped to, and they're going to warp to 0. If they happen to take that 33% chance to land at the same thing you do, you're going to land together, and you're going to be 5 meters away from the guy that's going to target you and kill you. So how can we avoid that chance? How can we be even safer? Well, by choosing a random range. So if you right-click on these things, let's take this asteroid belt right here. If I right-click on this asteroid, I'll wait till I come out of warp here. See, I'm landing right in the middle of this belt. So if he saw me warp to this and warp to me, he's going to land right on top here, and I'm probably going to die. What I usually do is I right-click on this random celestial, and instead of warp to 0 or clicking a warp up here in this window, I'm going to right-click, hold over this warp to within, and then choose something random. You can be 50, 100, 70, whatever, because the chances are he's going to go to 0. So I want to be safe. I want to warp to 50. So that further reduces the chance he's going to land right on top of me. Okay, so those are kind of some of the more advanced topics I want to talk about how to save your ship, how to save your capsule, and fly safer in general. And I know I say fly dangerous, but let's not be stupid. You should never lose a ship just being uninformed or carelessness, right? You always want to intentionally lose your ship. Like if I want to trade ships with somebody, like he's got a really nice blingy ship, and I'm very happy to give up my tier 1 cruiser to destroy his pirate cruiser that's worth 10 times mine. Then I'm willing to do that, but let's not lose it unnecessarily. So I hope this was helpful, and until next time, fly dangerous, and I'll talk to you next time.